Hey everyone, welcome back to Hobbies with Jose, and today we've got part one of our customization and repaint of Siege Megatron. Now I have been debating if I'm going to keep the transformation or if I'm going to remove the backpack for a more G1 look, and it kind of occurred to me.
How do you decide between crunchy and soft tacos?
¿Por qué no los dos?
That's it. I will have both crunchy and soft tacos. Welcome back everyone, it's great to have you here. And today we are going to get started with customizing and repainting our Siege Megatron. And yes, as I always try to make things harder on myself, I will attempt to keep the transformation while also making the backpack removable. So let's talk a little bit about how I plan to do that. Now, as I mentioned in my review, which hopefully you got a chance to check out, the only real piece of cable Megatron has is the backpack. And when trying to determine where I'm going to separate it, well, he does have a couple of hinges here in the back, two major ones actually. Now I do want to prevent him from having a big hole up on top, so I think the second hinge, the one closest to the backpack, is the one where I'm going to separate it from the figure. Once I have it separated, I can really just keep the treads in tank mode, and when I'm ready to transform it, just kind of attach it on top. Although that's probably going to be easier said than done, but we'll give it a shot and see how that works. The only other real modification I plan on doing is, of course, removing these tabs from the back of Megatron's fist, so hopefully I can kind of straighten him out a little bit when he's in bot mode. But other than that, that's really about it. Let's go ahead and get this big guy disassembled. And I'm definitely going to start with this fusion cannon here. What I always try to do is take off the easiest parts, being the ball joints, which I think Megatron only has one, which is on the back of his head. And I think next up we're going to work on some of the screws. Here we'll have a couple of pins to work with later on. Still a few more screws left. This guy is just riddled with pins. Here we have one of Megatron's heels, and one of the issues that this piece had is that it doesn't connect very well to the foot. You see this part here, these little pegs are kind of squished in, and I'll show you what it looks like on the foot. You see how this bottom one here is barely even going into the hole, so what I'm going to do is use my heat gun to warm it up a little bit, not too much, you don't want to warp the plastic, and I'm going to try to expand it, let it dry to see if it'll fit better. And it definitely feels softer right now. I'm going to let this cool down and I'll work on the other one, and we'll do a bit of a test fit. While we wait for that, let's knock some pins out. I'm just gonna have to live with this piece not fitting exactly right, but at least it feels a little tighter. With Megatron now as disassembled as we are going to get him, it's time to strip the paint. Once again, I have my paint stripping solution made up of 9 parts 91% isopropyl alcohol and 1 part lacquer thinner. And we'll check back in about a half hour. And we are back. It's actually been a little over a half hour. I did go ahead and clean up all of our pieces with all-purpose cleaner. And I've got them all sitting in this tray, just drying off. But I did go ahead and pre-dry these pieces because these are the ones we're going to modify right now. And I think we're going to start with something simple and just get rid of the tabs that are right behind the fists. Next up, I'm going to remove these hinge sections on his back since I'm not going to attach the backpack anymore, and that should be relatively easy as well. Now the last modification I want to try and do today has to do with this piece. This becomes the front of the tank turret. As I was disassembling it, I was trying to see if there was a way to maybe attach this piece onto Megatron's back to simulate the gun barrel for G1 Megs. And just based on this height here, I thought there was a way that I can maybe attach it to this little screw hole here, but unfortunately the peg isn't quite long enough to reach. So what I want to try and do is make a hole in his lower back here so I can attach this piece and make it look more G1. So now that I have that attached, I'm thinking that it's a tad bit long. What I'm going to try and do at this point is just cut a segment from in between here and glue the end piece onto it just to see if I can shorten it a bit. Alright, let's see what this looks like on his back. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Now the last thing I want to get done today isn't really a modification, but more of a cleanup. Megatron does have this seam line running across his head, so I'm going to try to clean that up by filling it in with some putty. Alright, I'm going to give this a day to dry and we'll come back and finish cleaning it up. So the seam line feels pretty smooth now, but we won't get an idea of just how smooth it is until we put some primer on it, which is going to be next week. We'll start adding some primer and some colors as well, which I just picked up some new silvers, which I'm looking forward to trying out. So hope you can all join me for that. It should be a lot of fun. And if you like what you saw, you know what to do. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next week. Take care, everyone.